Hey there, this is Brady Hare, and if you are looking for an inexpensive option to a move to Tennessee and you are considering some different areas to move, you've got to experience Lewisburg, Tennessee. I mean, it's so beautiful here. It's a great, less expensive option if you're trying to be close to Franklin or even Columbia. It's mainly a farm and ranch community. It's a smaller town. It's got a small town vibe and a lot of wide open spaces out here. If you are looking to introduce your children or your family to the farm and ranch way of life, agriculture, livestock, it's a great option. And you're really in good proximity to say Columbia. Columbia is a 20-minute drive. It's 15 miles away. I think Lewisburg is a great option if you are working from home, or let's say you don't have to travel all the way into Nashville to work. I think living in Lewisburg, Tennessee, and having to travel into Nashville to work would be a little bit of a stretch. I know people do it. If you work in, say, Spring Hill or Columbia, and your commute doesn't have to be that far from Lewisburg. Lewisburg is just a great option, and it's a great place to settle down, and it's a great place to have a family. One of the things that you'll really love about Tennessee in general, but especially Lewisburg, is some of the residents of Lewisburg have been here for a long, long time. They're true Tennesseans, and when they welcome you to your community and to your neighborhood, I mean, there's just nothing else like true, genuine Southern hospitality. I know that word is thrown around a lot, but I think Tennessee has one of the purest forms of Southern hospitality you'll ever experience. Neighbors are so unique and genuine, and they really don't care where you're coming from. They're just happy you're here. I know there's a lot of places that you'll move to and you feel like, some of the neighbors will make you feel like because you're not from there, it's kind of that locals mentality that you're not welcome unless they know you. And man, that is not the case in Tennessee, in especially Lewisburg. I mean, they don't care if you're from California or Texas or where you're from. They just are glad that you're here, and most of them will show you genuine Southern hospitality and welcome you and just be a good neighbor in times of need. One of the other things about Lewisburg that is so refreshing and so cool, if you're looking to get your children into rodeo events or expose them to livestock events, whether they're mounted events or unmounted events, meaning that if they don't have a horse, it's okay. If you just want to expose them to kind of that Western lifestyle and the rodeo lifestyle, there's events here locally that you can expose your children to, even at the youngest age of 1 year old. Rodeo events, stick horse races, goat tying, different events that you can start to introduce your young children into so that they can explore that interest. They may have an interest in it or they may not have an interest in it, but as a parent, at least you've exposed them to that. And locally here, there's star rodeo events for kids as little as 1 year old all the way up to 18 years old. And so that is a really cool option to get your kids into, and it's local to Lewisburg. Lewisburg also has livestock auctions, which you don't find too many of those anymore. But right here in Lewisburg, you can go to an auction on Saturdays and once a month on Fridays, and they auction off at a live auction cattle, horses, goats, all kinds of livestock. And so if you guys wanted to get a couple goats in your move to Tennessee, or you wanted to get some longhorn cattle, or whatever your goals are for your farm, your mini ranch, in Lewisburg, I mean, you can go to this live auction and bid on livestock. There's also a couple feed stores here, so you won't have to travel very far to feed your animals. There's 2 feed stores here in Lewisburg. It's literally just a couple of miles down the road. So all of these options for this farm and ranch community really make it very convenient if you're looking to start a mini farm or a mini ranch for your family, and looking to have that laid back way of life and introduce your kids to that rodeo way of life, or even the Western way of life, or even teaching responsibility on how to care for an animal. I mean, that's a big deal. There's something so calming and freeing about being outside with animals, and about working outside and getting dirty and riding your horse and caring for your horse and saddling your horse, and even learning an event horseback. I think it's such a valuable tool. It's such a valuable thing to teach kids today, and when we're living in a world that's so fast-paced, and out here in the country you can just kind of slow things down, and there's something so peaceful and refreshing about it and rejuvenating about it. It's just a great thing, I think, for kids to be out in the wide open spaces and to experience everything that it has to offer, and getting them away from the TV, getting them away from the video games, and getting them outside to work hard, to learn responsibility, and to work with animals. There's so many life lessons in it, and I feel it's so important to teach this next generation about it. You know, talking about the market here in Lewisburg, it is a less expensive option, just because you are farther out than some of the pocket areas like Franklin, Columbia, Spring Hill, Thompson Station. And because of that, the prices are a little bit lower than you're going to find in some of these other hot spots like Columbia, Franklin, and as you get closer to Nashville. So literally here in Lewisburg, you can purchase, I'd say, up to 3 acres and a brand new build for right around $350,000. I think the last I looked, it was $338,000. And I know that's not a huge, large ranch or anything, but if you're needing some acreage or some elbow space, to be able to get into a single family home and a brand new build for that price is pretty cool. I think to this morning I checked, and there was right around 22 properties with the acreage of at a minimum of 3 acres. And they went all the way up from $350,000 all the way up to $2.2 million. And on some of those that started at 1.7, you could literally pick up 80 acres. I think the one that was listed for 2.2 was on over 100 acres. So again, out here in Lewisburg, in the area, you can pick up that kind of acreage for less than, say, you could in Williamson County, which is closer to Nashville. I think Lewisburg is not going to be for everybody, but I think that if you maybe have a work from home job, a job that would afford you the flexibility to stay at home, and there is internet out here, believe it or not. I do have a secret for internet. I discovered it myself, and you can literally pick up any internet anywhere out here, even in these rural areas. But it's a good option for somebody, I'd say, that maybe works in Columbia, where you just have a 20-minute drive to get to work, or you work from home. Where I don't think it's going to be a good fit is for somebody that works in Nashville, or, I mean, Franklin might be the absolute farthest that I would think that you'd want to work, just because of the commute and the I-65 and the traffic that you'd experience. I don't think that would be a pleasant experience getting back and forth from Nashville all the way to Lewisburg. But regardless, as far as the property prices go, and to be able to pick yourself up a really cool spread with some really cool acreage, with some of these old farmhouses and some of these newer properties as well, it really gets you a lot of options, because you are a little farther out. You know, moving is not the most favorite thing to do. And you know, whether you're moving from one subdivision to another subdivision, or you're moving, you know, from one side of town to the other side of town, it's hard. I mean, just going through your stuff and packing and getting rid of stuff and reorganizing and then loading everything up. You know, if you're hiring movers, then that's one thing. If you're doing it yourself, then that's another. And then getting to the new place, unpacking, getting situated, getting beds set up, dressers, couches, everything set up, it can be very stressful. Let alone if you're moving from out of state, from one state to another. That's a whole new, challenge of stresses in itself. But I want to encourage you, because I think we all know that when we are in an uncomfortable spot in our lives, it can also be one of the biggest opportunities for growth. And I know I've experienced that in my life. As uncomfortable as it is to move, and if you're coming to Tennessee and you're dreading it, or maybe you're excited, but there's always going to be some challenges in it, I just want to encourage you that as you are putting faith in these next steps in your journey, your best is yet to come. Because when you get outside of yourself and believe that maybe there's something better, or maybe you're going to start a business here, or maybe you're going to work in a new place that you don't know anybody, I just also want to remind you that yes, it's going to be a season of restructuring and humility and having to start maybe even from the bottom, so to speak, but it will also be a season of some of your best growth and probably some of your biggest achievements. Because you're in that restructuring phase, you get hungry, and anytime you're hungry in your gut and your heart, you start to look at things differently, and you start to want to make opportunities out of things that you didn't see opportunity in before. And anytime you're hungry, you're open to learning. And anytime you're open to learning, you're open to gaining knowledge. And when you have that knowledge, that's powerful. But the only way you get it sometimes is through the restructuring of humility and having to start over. And so I just wanted to remind you that yes, moving's tough, but on the other side of it, there's going to be so much growth that's going to happen. You may not see the growth immediately. I know you won't see the growth immediately, but you will see it, and it's going to propel you into some new directions, into some new plateaus that you wouldn't have experienced had you stayed put.